Hey, welcome back to another great RC Worst video. Chris here, and today we're going to be just doing a quick little video for you. I've got a little Zoller sump pump that sustained a little power cord damage, I think in transit, or maybe somebody sliced too deep into the box. But anyways, hopefully you can kind of see here and that the power cord is definitely, the outer cord's been damaged, and I can see a little bit of copper in there. So we're just going to do a really inexpensive fix. Again, this is a sump pump, so it's going to be operated in relatively clean water, dewatering applications. This particular fix may not be the most appropriate for like sewer environments, so just keep that in mind. But for water applications, it's going to be a perfectly good, inexpensive, and quick fix. So all we're going to need today, I've got some crimps, I've got some wire strippers, I've got a heat shrink kit, the SP4C heat shrink kit off of RC Worst website, and then I've just got my little pocket box cutter knife in case I need to strip back some of this insulation. That's going to be a pretty simple process. So first thing we're going to have to do, of course, is cut the wire where the damage is, and then boom, there we got that. I'm going to strip back some of this outer insulation so that I can get into these crimps. Now these crimp tubes, get this open here. These crimp tubes are pretty long, and for this particular instance, and I've got butt connectors here. Let me pull one of those out. I've got these little butt connectors here. I'd say they're maybe an inch long. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna cut about a third or a quarter off of these heat shrink tubes, and then my overall goal is, once I heat shrink the ground and then the two other wires, the neutral and the hot, is to then put a heat shrink all around the whole thing. Now what I've got to figure out is whether or not this heat shrink is going to be large enough to do the whole job, or if I got to get a bigger piece of tubing. So we're going to figure that out. Okay, so after looking at it for a minute, this tubing, it barely fits around this cable here. So I went ahead and grabbed a piece of 1/2 inch that should give us plenty of room to get all 3 connections made. And then this should shrink around the whole thing, because ideally I want to have it shrink really tightly on the upper and lower part of the cord so we get a good seal, and that's going to make more sense once we get into it. So I'm going to work on stripping these back, and we'll be right back with you. Okay, so I've got my heat shrink tubing here. We've cut those to length that I think is going to work good for us. I've put my external shrink on, my tube on already, otherwise I'm going to be locked out. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and just crimp all these on one side. Okay, always a good idea to tug on your connections, make sure you got a good, snug, tight fit. Those all look really nice. Then we got to do the next side. All right, so we've got ourselves enough cord that we'll be able to make our connections with the tubing out of the way. Throw that on there, throw that on there. Now it's pretty important to go ahead and make sure you're putting the right color wire in the deal. All right, so now we've got all of our connections made. Our shrink tube is in place. We're gonna use the heat gun today, but in a pinch, you can always use a torch as well. But since these are so close together, I think it's gonna be a little more controllable with the heat gun. All right, so we've got all of our heat shrinks heated up and cooled down now, and you can see they're all good connections with the stuff oozing out here. That's always a good sign when you're using heat shrinks, that you want that stuff to ooze out of there, making sure it shrunk all the way down. So now we take our tubing and slide that up over, trying to overlap both sides of the cord to further give us a better resistance seal. Now, if you don't have a larger piece of tubing, or you want to do this even cheaper, you could very easily just use electrical tape here. This is already a really good watertight connection, but we're just going to take it one step further and just use a little bit larger heat shrink, like I said, but electrical tape would be just fine as well. And then this one I'm gonna heat from the outside or from the center and work my way out, because I wanna try to get as much of this air out of here as I can. And since it's not just a perfectly round wire, I wanna do it this way. There she is. Nice looking splice right there. We've got the insulating goop pouring out of there a little bit. All right, so I hope you enjoyed just our quick little video on how to make a quick cord connection or a simple splice connection to save a power cord. If you've ever priced out a power cord for a pump, they're usually pretty spendy, especially on a smaller, inexpensive pump like this. You probably don't want to be spending 40, 50 bucks on a power cord when you can just buy some heat shrink kits and basically have this accomplished for maybe $10 at most. So it's really inexpensive and good way to do it, and you can keep that pump running in service for years to come. Don't forget, if you aren't aware, we have a clearance section on rcworst.com where a lot of products like this, where I fix them and we sell them at a really, really steep discount, usually well below cost, just to get the products out of the warehouse and moving on. So make sure you check that out. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great content. We'll catch you next time.